Hello everyone, myself Dr. Ruchi Kaur from Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Khalsa College, University of Delhi, and I welcome you all to this video on Introduction to Group Theory. When we talk of group theory, what do we mean by a group? Group is one of the most basic and fundamental algebraic structure. And now what is an algebraic structure? Any set with one or more operations associated to it and satisfying a certain set of properties would be called an algebraic structure. Now, in algebra, you may come across various algebraic structures. For example, groups, rings, fields, etc. Now, when we say group, if we go to the origin of groups, we can see that group theory is actually understood as the study of symmetries. Right, so group is actually something which came from the study of symmetry, and symmetries are basically associated to a regular polygon. So let us first see what do we mean by symmetries of a regular polygon. See, whenever we see a polygon, say a polygon of sides, number of sides 3, 4, 5, we can associate it as, can relate it to as an equilateral triangle or a square or regular pentagon, regular hexagon, octagon, and so on. In general, regular polygon is actually a polygon in which all the sides are equal, all the angles are equal. Now, when we say regular polygon and we consider the symmetries of a regular polygon, the very first thing that comes to mind is that the lines of symmetry, the number of lines of symmetry, they are actually equal to the number of sides which are there in a regular polygon. Let us hear to this small audio. Audio playing. Let us hear to this small audio, and that will make us follow what is the basic idea behind symmetries of a regular polygon.
When we talk of symmetries of a regular polygon, the symmetries that we tend to see are the lines of symmetries for the polygon, as can be seen in the picture. But it is not so. If we imagine a regular polygon which is cut out from a plane, then all the possible ways in which the polygon can be put back into the groove are all its symmetries. And this surely includes all the possible rotations too. Like for an equilateral triangle, there will be 3 rotations of 120° each, and for a square there will be 4 rotations of 90° each, and so on.
What is the idea that we get from here? When we talk of symmetries of a regular polygon, it is actually imagining any regular polygon as some figure that is there in a plane and it has been extracted from that plane. And now, what are the all possible ways in which that particular symmetrical or that particular regular polygon can be put back into that groove from where it was taken out? So how can we do that? Let us first consider the most simple example of equilateral triangle. If we take an equilateral triangle out from plane of paper, and if we now want to put it back into that same groove, in what all possible ways can we do that? First of all, we can put back the equilateral triangle as it is, the way it was and the way we took it out. That is the most fundamental way in which you can put back your equilateral triangle. Next is what we can do. We can rotate the equilateral triangle to an angle of 120°. That means the vertex ABC would be like, now the vertex, if the vertex A was at the top, now the vertex B, it would be A, B and C. Now it would be C, A and B. If we give one more rotation, then it would be B, C and A, right? So in this way we can see that there are 3 rotations which are going to be there in the case of an equilateral triangle, and by means of these 3 rotations we can rotate the equilateral triangle and put it back into the groove, right? Apart from these rotations, these 3 lines that you are able to see here, these 3 lines, they are going to be the lines of symmetry along which you can flip the equilateral triangle and again you can put it back into the groove and it is going to fit well, right? So apart from 3 rotations, you have 3 reflections, and these 3 reflections are lines of symmetry where each line is going to pass through one of the 3 vertices at a time. Similarly, when you talk of a square, you will have these 1, 2, 3 and 4. These 4 lines of symmetries which would cause the reflection of this square, where the lines would be the line joining the opposite vertices. So we'll be having 2 lines in that form, this line joining these 2 opposite vertices, and then this line joining these 2 opposite vertices. Apart from that, if we just take a line which is joining the midpoint of these 2 opposite sides, this line would also be a line of reflection, axis of reflection, and it would be like it would be called as the axis or the line of symmetry which would reflect the square vertically. Similarly, when we talk of this line is going to be a line which is going to reflect the square along this line horizontally. So we have 4 reflections in case of square, and again we have 4 rotations too in this case. But here the angle of rotation would be each of 90 degrees. So that means when we make the first rotation, cyclically the vertices, they are going to shift to the next vertex. Then another rotation, the original vertex would then come to the opposite end, because now it has taken an angle of rotation of 180 degree, and so on, right? And then similarly we have many such more things. Similarly we have these kinds of rotations and reflections in all other polygons, right? Now let us come to the basic definition of a group. What do we mean by a group? Now, since we have related this group as the group to the study of symmetries, we'll slowly we'll eventually see that the symmetries, the collection of those symmetries is going to satisfy the properties which are all stated over here. So the properties that we get as the definition of group, they are actually motivated by the study of those symmetries that we have seen geometrically in the last slide. Now let us come to this formal definition. What do we say? For a group, we have to consider a non-empty set G, and it has to form, it will form a group under a binary operation if it satisfies the property of associativity. That is, if A and B, if they are operated by the given binary operation, and if then the result is then operated, and if this result is then operated with C under this specified binary operation, the result is going to be same if first B and C are operated under the same operation, B and C are associated with the same operation, and the result is then associated to A, right? So this is the property of associativity. This should hold for all the elements A, B, C of G. So that means whatever is the number of elements in G, it has to have this property. Each and every element has to have this property holding in G under this specific operation. So at a time you take any triplet of elements of G, has to hold these, the triplet has to satisfy this property, and all possible triplets that you can form in G they have to satisfy this property. So this is very important, that this property has to be there. It has to hold for all A, B, C in G. The next property is the existence of the identity element. Now what we need here is, from the group G, we need one unique element E. There must exist a unique element E in G such that E operated with A, either on the be it on left or be it on right, A operated with A should give you back the element, same element A. So that means identity E is such an element of the group which when associated with any element of the group G, it won't change the element. It will remain the element unchanged. So if you are able to find such an element from the group G which is satisfying this property for all A, again the element has to be a single element E, but that has to satisfy this property for all the elements of the group G. Then you say that the group G has an identity element, right? And when we talk of existence of inverses, what we say, for any element A in G, there must exist a element. Actually, it is going to be a unique element. So later on we will see to the results by means of which we prove that this element B, which we talk of as an inverse of A, that has to be a unique element. So what do we say? For all A in G, there must exist some B in G such that AB is equal to BA is equal to E, right? So for every possible element of the group G, you should be able to find one unique element in G such that this property holds. So when we have a non-empty set G and a binary operation is associated with that set, under which operation the elements of the group, they are satisfying these three properties, then the set is called a group under that operation. And since we are already stating here that it is a binary operation, so we need not check closure with respect to operation. Otherwise, these three properties, along with these three properties, we need to check one more property, which is closure of G with respect to this operation. So in that case, we'll first of all check that for every pair A, B in G, the element that results by the association of those two elements under this binary operation